Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 30-year veteran writer, illustrator, and editor of comic, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. And it is Friday night. That means it is time for the TV movie discussion of the week. And as always, my co-host, John Figaro Norris.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well.
As you know, John has been dealing with some health issues. You want to give people an update?
Yes. So last Friday, I found myself in one of our local urgent care centers because my doctor happened to be out of the office on that day. But basically, long story short, I'd been having some pain in my lower abdomen area, and it was discovered I have 2 hernias down there. So need to take care of it. So I have a consultation with a surgeon on Monday, April the 4th. So that'll start that week out. I'll end that week on April 8th with another appointment at MUSC in Charleston regarding my crowns. So that will be a very full week for me.
Yes.
So prayers and good thoughts will be most appreciated.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. What happens if the doc with the hernia says you got to go in right away?
Then I'll go in right away
and cancel your other appointment. I guess. Alrighty. That's wow. Quite a bit going on for you. Alrighty, folks. Me, I'm not going to doctors yet, but I've had shoulder pain the last few days, so we'll figure out what's going on with that too, hopefully. But our show this week is the 1977 series QUARK, created by Buck Henry, executive producers David Gerber and Mace Neufeld, starring Richard Benjamin, Tim Thomerson, Richard Kelton, Tricia and Sib Barnstable, Conrad Janis, Alan Kalu, and Bobby Porter. Production companies are David Gerber Productions and Columbia Pictures Television. There were 8 episodes that ran 30 minutes an episode. You know, it's actually more like 22, but you know, it was a 30-minute time slot. Genre was science fiction, comedy, and parody. And what it's about. It's the adventures of the crew of a United Galaxy Sanitation Patrol cruiser, which is an intergalactic garbage scow operating out of the United Galaxy Space Station Perma 1 in the year 2226. Commander Adam QUARK, that's the guy in the top center, the main character, works to clean up trash in space by collecting space baggies, which makes you think about taking your dog out for a walk with his trusted and highly unusual crew. This crew consists of Betty 1 and 2, a.k.a. the Bettys, portrayed by Sib and Patricia Barnstable. They're the navigators and pilots of the ship. They're completely identical with identical red-hot passions for QUARK. One of them is a clone of the other, but each claims to be the original and that the other one is the clone. They tend to have a tendency to speak in perfect unison and have exactly the same thought at exactly the same time. QUARK, when describing his crew, which one he wants to screw, yeah, he explains that he's in love with Betty, but he's not sure which one. Then we have Gene, portrayed by Tim Thomerson. That's the guy with the gun in the left. He's a transmute, which is a humanoid being with a complete set of both male and female chromosomes. Basically, a hermaphrodite transgender? I don't know. But anyway, she serves as the ship's engineer. The gender confusion manifests in a split personality. When his macho side is in control, he is gung-ho, angry, and violent, while the much more mild-mannered female personality, of course, is stereotypically feminine, pacifistic, and sometimes a bit cowardly. We have Ficus Pandorata. That's the gray-haired guy on the bottom mid-right. He's more like the Spock-like science officer and is what they call a vegeton, which is a member of a race of sentient plant life. And despite the fact that he has completely human appearance, he tends to shrivel up when he gets dehydrated. While he's extremely intelligent, observant, and always calmly rational, he is incapable of any sort of human emotion, hence the Spock tendencies, including not having fear or tact, which gets him into some interesting discussions, to say the least. He frequently finds behavior of the rest of the crew difficult to understand, his curiosity leading him to have philosophical debates about the human condition with Quark, usually at the most inopportune of times. And then we have Andy, who is the robot in the bottom left corner, who's made from spare parts with a cowardly and neurotic personality, who only exists because he saved the day in the pilot episode, I think. Then they have Dr. Obi-Mud, who is not in this picture because he's only in the first episode. He's a crotchety, one-eyed old man who's a scientist who worked with Quark to build Andy, and he leaves after the pilot episode. He asks and gets a transfer to wherever. I guess maybe the actor just didn't like the part he was playing. And so we go into episode 1, the pilot. Let's let you start reading.
Okay. So a deep space phenomenon threatens to destroy the galaxy, and Quark's ship is the only one in the area. Palindrome and the Head, the co-leaders of Perma 1 space station, instruct Quark to go on a suicide mission to save their civilization, but he's so far away that they can only contact him by laser telegram. Excuse me. The two of them argue over telegram cost and spend most of the episode trying to reduce the number of words in the message so as to keep the cost down. Meanwhile, we get introduced to Quark and his motley crew, and they accidentally save the day when Andy decides the ship's power converter is his love and tears it out of the wall, causing the ship to release all of its trash cargo, which the energy phenomenon follows away from the galaxy and consumes.
Okay. Now that was an interesting start to the series, to say the least. For those who don't understand who the Head and the Palindrome are, Palindrome is the guy in the black suit, and of course the Head is the floating head there that you see. You can kind of tell that this is meant to be a mishmash of all the different science fiction films and TV shows going on at late 60s and early 70s that had been made up at this point, including Star Trek, Space 1999,
2001.
2001, yeah. The characters are kind of not that well developed in the pilot. I mean, there's more telling you what they are rather than showing. It is an interesting episode, but there are some glaring tropes that if this had been launched in today's world, I don't think they would have flown. I don't think the Gene character would work in the same way today. I think people would. There's too much overly PC that would say that was not kosher. Story-wise, it's a little bit silly too, I think. But what do you think?
Well, I have to say, I had never, ever heard of this show before you told me about it last week. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. I went into this thinking it was going to be a British show. I don't know why I thought that, but that's what I thought. And so I start watching it, and then I see Richard Benjamin. It's like, ooh, now Of course, Richard Benjamin was from Westworld. He's the guy that gets hunted by Yul Brynner's gunslinger, and he was in he was in movies like What's Up, Doc, and The Sunshine Boys, and he eventually started directing. But it's like, ooh, this is interesting, and he always played that kind of deadpan, funny character, so it wasn't exactly a stretch for this show. And then you see, created by Buck Henry. Wow, that wasn't Buck Henry, of course, created Get Smart with Mel Brooks, and he wrote the screenplay to The Graduate and other movies of the 70s. Was like, it's actually like it has like a pretty cool pedigree, and for what it was
all right for a start.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't seen it. I'd only heard about it through some mutual friends of ours at CBR, Jim McCory and Greg Hatcher.
Yep.
This originally aired at 8 p.m. on Friday nights in 77. I would have been 5 years old, so I was like in bed by then, usually on a Friday.
Yeah, I would have been 2.
Yeah, I don't think you would have understood what was going on. So it wasn't that kind of a thing for us, and as far as seeing it when it first aired. Okay, the second episode is May the Source Be With You, produced by Bruce Johnson, written by Steve Zacharias. The first episode was they didn't have the credits listed on who wrote it and produced and directed, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure it's probably among the same people. Anyway, Perma 1 is in a state of emergency as the Gorgons, which is a parody of Star Trek's Klingons, in a way, have created the ultimate weapon to defeat the United Galaxy. Palindrome gives Quark the secret weapon, the Source, which is this like energy ball voiced by Hans Conried. And Quark must completely believe in the Source in order to defeat the Gorgons.
Yep.
So, my thoughts are, you have to believe that this is where Mel Brooks got some of the shtick for Spaceballs from. Smaller budget, but the gags are very similar. And of course, like you said, Buck Henry and Mel Brooks are kind of joined at the hip anyway. So it was very much in that vein.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I mean, there was some interesting things going on with it. I keep hitting the wrong setup there. I want that one. In part of the story, the lead character Quark gets hit with a laser beam ricochet, and he goes blind temporarily. And the Source, which is like this, like I said, this energy that he hears the voice of, and only he hears it. None of the other ones hear it, just him. And he has to like listen to the voice guide him through things and defeat the enemy, which is kind of funny in a way. He has to go over a small transverse, a little plank or something, and underneath there's a vat of whatever with a monster in it that'll consume him if he falls and stuff. And I'm just like, that kind of feels like the same thing that you see in Galaxy Quest as well. Yep. So it's like this seems like it's a really good precursor to some of these other shows and films that came later on, which is quite interesting.
Yep.
What did you think of this episode?
I found it interesting. I didn't at first recognize Hans Conried as the voice of the Source, and of course, Hans Conried was a well-known actor back in the day, but he did a lot of voice work. He was the voice of Captain Hook in Peter Pan, which is probably where most people would know him from. But I didn't recognize him here. It's like,
yeah, I thought it was actually the voice of Mel Brooks, as I was listening to it. It just sounded like him doing the Spaceballs, his Yoda persona there, the Schwartz or whatever, yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. But I had to look him up and say, yeah, that's who that is too. Not exactly a surprise. Okay, the next one is called The Old and the Beautiful, directed by Hy Averback, and he pretty much directed all the series. This one was written by Bruce Kane. Expecting his usual garbage hauling assignment, QUARK is excited to hear that the head has instead authorized an extended romantic interlude with Princess Karna of Camomore. But troubles ensue when the crew encounter a stray space baggie carrying a virus which ages QUARK 2 years for every hour. This is a spoof of the Star Trek original series episode, The Deadly Years. My thoughts are, well, this is not the best episode. They did some nice special effects aging Benjamin as QUARK. But the storyline was kind of silly. They did certain things that kind of made me blanch a little bit. Yeah, give me a second. I'm trying to think of his name. Ficus. He has different attempts to try and cure him of the virus. And one of the things was a blood transfusion from Gene, who doesn't want to do it and because he's afraid that he's going to get the virus himself. And that, even though AIDS would not really come into the public eye for another few years, AIDS was actually hitting the gay community in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So in retrospect, that kind of made me feel like, oh, they're doing something kind of weird about that. That kind of put me off a little bit. And then they did when they actually sent him down as basically older than dirt to the princess. My video didn't play right. I don't know exactly what happened. I guess they decided whatever they did, it brought him back to normal. And I guess they revved his metabolism up to a higher grade, which to me would mean you'd actually burn yourself out more than go younger, but whatever. It was just kind of a weird episode. Having not seen The Deadly Years in a long time, I couldn't remember what the actual cure was that they came up for Kirk and that either. But, it was okay, I guess.
I've never seen that Star Trek episode, so it was one of those episodes where it felt like they were parodying something, but if you haven't seen the original, I didn't really get it.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. All right. I'll let you read the episode 4. Mm-hmm.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ficus. I wonder where they got that title from. Directed by Hy Averback, written by Stuart Gillard. While on a routine mission, the ship is accidentally pulled into a black hole which splits the crew into good and evil counterparts. The exception is Ficus, who remains the same because, quote, there are no good or evil plants, there are just plants, leading both sets of crew members to scream at him in their usual exasperation. After QUARK confronts and defeats his evil self on a nearby asteroid, he sends the evil crew back through the black hole. As the evil crew is being sent back, we hear the evil Adam QUARK saying, "Keep your deflectors up, do-gooder. You haven't seen the last of this face." A spoof of the Star Trek original series Mirror Mirror. And again, while I hadn't seen that original Star Trek episode, I have to say, I enjoyed watching Richard Benjamin play against himself in this one.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, it's too much of a parody for me. I mean, it's good. It's for what it does. It's good, but I kind of we'll get more into it later in the show. But I find that when they go too hard towards parodying specific episodes, they lose something in making these characters more relatable to the audience, I think. And I think that kind of hurt the show overall. But it's not a bad episode by any means. I just kind of wish they had gone and done something more with the characters as individuals, I guess. But, it's an okay episode. Episode 5 is Goodbye, Palumbus. Again, directed by Hy Averland. This, again, written by Bruce Kane. Quark and his crew are sent on a suicide mission, as they always are, to Palumbus to discover why no one has ever returned alive. Quark and his crew fall prey to their fantasies as part of a fiendish plot by the dreaded Gorgons to drain the minds of the United Galaxy's most brilliant scientists. Quark encounters a beautiful dream girl. Ficus encounters a teacher. The Bettys encounter dancing clones of Quark. And Gene encounters his favorite comic book character, Zoltar the Magnificent, played by Denny Miller. And that was something else too. In order to save his crew, Quark must destroy the obelisk and free the shape-shifting clay people that it has enslaved. Of course, this episode's title is a spoof of the film Goodbye, Columbus, in which Benjamin played the lead, and it is also a parody of the Star Trek original episode Shore Leave. And because it is a parody of Shore Leave, I'm just like, okay, I feel like NBC picked this up because they're just trying to get on the science fiction bandwagon of the 70s at this point and try to make fun of it. I mean, it's good, but it's, I don't know, a little bit higher budget version of what you might see of an SNL skit in a way of these type of characters. And, like I said, it's a great precursor to what we would see later on with other shows and films. But, have you seen Shore Leave?
No, I haven't.
Have you watched any Star Trek original series?
Very few episodes and a long time ago. Like the one I really remember is Space Seed with Ricardo Montalban.
Well, of course, yeah. Okay.
But this series sure does owe a lot to Star Trek because, I mean, they even used the same sound effects from Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Our next episode. I'll let you read it.
All the Emperor's Quasi-Norms, Part 1, directed by Bruce Bilson, written by Jonathan Kaufer. And here's a little fun fact. Some of you may not know this. Bruce Bilson is the father of Danny Bilson, who was one of the writers on the Flash TV show from the 90s. So,
and the grandfather of actress Rachel Bilson.
Yes. So, So, while on a routine mission, Quark and his crew are captured by Zorgon the Malevolent, Gorgon space pirate and half-brother to the High Gorgon himself. Zorgon tries to learn from Quark where to find it, which represents a problem as Quark has no idea what it is. Meanwhile, Zorgon's daughter, Princess Libido, now there's a name for you,
Yep.
by Joan Van Ark, has fallen in love with Ficus. Ficus agrees to a meeting with Princess Libido in hopes of letting her down gently because, as he explains to her, where I come from, we don't kiss, we pollinate. This line of reasoning fails to dissuade her, and in what for me was the absolute funniest moment in the entire series, the next scene finds both of them lying on the floor on their backs, sticking their arms and legs up in the air and saying "bee, bee, 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 bee," over and over again, increasing in rapidity and stupidity and pitch in anticipation of the arrival of the bee. It was like you just have to see it. Andy and Jean escape and disguise themselves as Gorgon scientists, and Jean is asked to give a lecture on it. The episode cliffhanger has Quark horrified to realize that the location for it that he gave as a bluff has turned out to be absolutely correct.
Which leads us into episode 7, All the Aperture's Quasi-Norms Part 2. Ficus sacrifices himself and marries Princess Libido to save the crew. Jean manages to impress the Gorgon scientists with its lecture. Notice that they call it, that it's described as its, not he or she, but it's in this moment. And it and Andy escape. Quark and the Bettys are sent down to the planet to be eaten by Elizabeth, but are saved by the Baron of the Forest People. With the Baron's help, Quark locates it, which turns out to be a small stone on a necklace. Subsequent events, including a disintegration ray deflecting off the stone, lead Quark to believe that he's invincible, when in fact it is nothing more than a powerless rock. Anyway, Quark returns to Zorgon's ship, survives the struggle with Zorgon's monster champion, kind of like in the arena where Kirk fights. Oh shoot, I can't think of the name of the one alien, but anyway,
the Gorn.
Yeah, the Gorn. Thank you.
Thank you, Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, right. And leaves the planet with his crew after Zorgon accidentally shoots Libido, which is kind of sad. And that frees Ficus from his obligations to her. When Quark tries to report what has happened, of course, Palindrome has absolutely no interest whatsoever, but Palindrome's assistant, Dirk, who's like a giant space version of the Addams Family's It,
yeah.
Is sitting there listening intently. Like, yep. So that was that episode, or those 2 episodes. Like I say, the silliest scene was, of course, the beep, 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 beep. But that was hilarious. But it was also like, that's the kind of thing I wanted to see them do, was stuff like that, because we didn't have a plant person before. What do they do? How do they do things? And well, there you go. That's how they kind of do stuff.
Yep.
That was kind of, I wanted to see what, okay, is there actually going to be a bee that comes? What's this bee going to look like? What's going to happen here? Like I say, Princess Libido, the name was something else. But it was interesting that they had to make it a 2-part episode. I think they could have done it in one, but I think they also were getting told by the studio that things weren't working out well for them. and just start wrapping it up. I think that's why they kind of just said, okay, we're not going to get a full season out of this anyway, because it only did 8 episodes. So let's go ahead and expand on this and have a 2-parter and see what happens. Yeah, it's probably the second funniest episode, or combined, probably the second funniest storyline of the group. I think maybe. The first one kind of being the shore leave episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you agree with me on that or not. Obviously, you feel that the
pollination scene just puts this one over the top for me.
Okay, that makes sense. That's fair. Okay. And lastly, episode 8, which is Vanessa 38-24-36, directed by Hy Averback and written by Robert A. Keats. Do you know anything about Keats offhand?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's fine. For holiday number 11, apparently they don't say Christmas or New Year's or anything. They say holiday number, whatever. Holiday number 11, Palindrome gives QUARK, a new ship's computer named Vanessa, who will have complete control over the ship. Unfortunately, Vanessa has absolutely no faith whatsoever in the crew and tries to destroy QUARK and his crew to prove her superiority. QUARK is able to disable Vanessa and throw her down the garbage hatch. In the last scene, we see Vanessa drifting through space singing Born Free.
That was just weird.
This was the weakest of the episodes by a long shot, and it was a real downer, in my opinion, to end the series on. Obviously, Vanessa is a tribute to Hal in 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Yep.
And because the pilot of the computer trying to kill the humanoids because they're obsolete is pretty low-rent SF that a kid could write. I should know, since I wrote one in grade school that's almost identical to this idea, only instead of being a computer on a ship, it was a house security robot system controlling the house, and they tried to kill the owners of the house. But I wrote it at like 10, so that kind of tells you what the mentality of this episode was. It was not good at all. So yeah, that was really a downer for me. I don't know what you thought of that episode.
Yeah, it really did nothing for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I guess we agree on that. Overall, I do think the series is actually better than I had expected it to be. As I've said all along throughout this episode, it is a precursor to the later comedy adventure shows like Lex and The Orville, to movies like Spaceballs and stuff of that nature. But I think they spent too much time parodying old Star Trek and Flash Gordon, which the 2-part episode was doing a lot of Flash Gordon parodying. It just never got the characters quite to their full potential. And I think that's why the series was canceled after 8 episodes. Because it was, and I think that's sad because the crew was actually much more interesting, and there was so much they could have explored, such as finding out which Betty is the clone, only to find that they're both clones is what I would how I would have written it. that would have wiped their minds, right? Meeting more of the transmutes to see how their culture and their race is, other than just Tim Thomerson, who, by the way, has a really interesting career as an actor after this, as a science fiction guy, and B movies and stuff. And Ficus's Vegeton race, the plant race as well, would have been all quite interesting to see episodes more geared towards than just having parody episodes of other classic Star Trek or classic Flash Gordon shows. What do you think?
I think it's mean, I can't say it's the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it was for what it was enjoyable. And
Mhm.
there are certainly worse ways to pass the time. I liked seeing Richard Benjamin, in the title role, because again he played that kind of deadpan funny character very well.
Mhm. Yeah, the twins are actually pretty interesting too. They became they're from Kentucky, and they became regular. They were also the Wrigley's double mint twins at one point,
Yeah, yes, that's right.
and they also were the I don't know what they call them, the Grand Marshals or whatever, hosts of the Kentucky Derby for a lot of years.
Oh,
So I think they did it like 8 or 9 times, not necessarily in a row, but they were quite an established uh, party involved with the Kentucky Derby. And the cat
of course.
wants to fight. I'll forget. I forget. All right, get out of here. Yeah, he decided he wanted to grab my arm, and that was not fun. Because he's got, I don't know how he sharpens his claws, but he sure does. Chews on him too much, I guess. Alrighty. Let's see what else it's got here. So what did you give this? 3 stars?
3 stars.
Okay, I gave it 3.5. I guess more for potential than what was actually there, but I kind of wish this would get renewed, rebooted with a more modern cast, but I'm afraid what they would do to the writing in a way. But I mean, if they got someone like Seth MacFarlane writing it, or somebody on that caliber, it would work pretty well, I think, today. Alrighty. Next week, we are going to be sticking with science fiction of the 70s. And we're going to go to more Saturday morning fare with Arc 2. And I don't know if you guys remember what this did. This aired on CBS in the Saturday morning cartoon era of the 1970s, live action, post-apocalyptic Earth. The trio and their simian ape friend there, chimp, travel across post-apocalyptic Earth in their rover rather, and have different adventures. And it should be an interesting thing, because I remember watching this and liking it as a kid. I don't know if it's going to hold up, but it has 15 episodes, so we'll have some fun with that next week.
Cool.
Now, is there anything else that's going on with you this weekend, or?
No, I don't need anything else to go on with me.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. No, we don't want any more medical emergencies. But yeah. Okay, so Monday is when I'll be back with the usual. Hopefully, as long as the weather's permitting, we'll be doing our daily question and comics reviews. And I might this weekend I might talk about the previews catalog, because that came out this week. So I might talk about what I found in previews and what I'm ordering, but we'll see. I might have to wait till next week, because I didn't get. It's stupid. Diamond sent the Diamond catalog, but DC and Marvel didn't send their catalogs this week. So their catalogs don't come into the stores till next week. So I might wait till next week when I get those to talk about. But if I don't talk about that this weekend, then I'll see you guys on Monday. And in the meantime, if you guys enjoyed this episode, or you think others might, we'd appreciate it if you hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from this channel. As always, John and I thank you for your support and watching the show. Except for you, Naked HD XYZ bro.
Yeah.
We don't want you here. If you want to reach out to us on social media, we're both on Facebook. I'm at Lewis.BrightRaven, and he's at
John Norris.
There you go. Twitter at LewisBrightRave2 for me. If you want to see my artwork, it's at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven, exclusively on YouTube. Gmail account, quotheravenlbr72@gmail.com is a place to email me with questions, suggestions for topics on the show. If you want to commission artwork from me. If I don't get back to you in a day or two, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. And if you want to talk to John about a topic of discussion, or you want to ask him about music, or wish him well on getting better soon, hopefully, it's Gray Figaro, GreyFigaro @hotmail.com.
Yep.
And that will be all for tonight. So we bid you a fair evening and a great weekend.
Good night, everyone.